All right, Supercard of Honor 6. Now, I'm going to say the show still turned out pretty good. You know, a lot of people were complaining about how it didn't feel like it was Supercard of Honor worthy because of the card. There was no foreign talent, no talent from other promotions to kind of spice up the show. But overall, it was still a great, you know, pure wrestling show. Just a lot of great one-on-one matches, you know, straight up, all killer, no filler. Definitely had that SummerSlam 2002 feel to it. However, though, I was slightly disappointed with some of the stuff on the show. Some of the booking was very questionable, and I think they should have limited the show to eight matches. They actually had 9 matches, and definitely would have scrapped one of the matches off the show. But we got some stuff that was kind of disappointing. I would admit that. So let's start off with the first match of the night, which was really kind of a buzz killer, to tell you the truth. This was not a good opener. This really killed Michael Elgin's momentum. He went out there with Homicide, and these two just had an average match. It was just nothing special. And I don't know. We've seen Elgin work better with other guys in the past. I don't know. Homicide just really wasn't selling for Elgin like he probably should have been, and the finish was awful. No one really got on Homicide's side. He didn't really get a lot of fan support. And like I said, just a pretty bad finish here, and just a really average way to start off the show. And you know, Michael Elgin was really building a lot of momentum from those ROH Revolution shows. He looked like a beast in that scramble, and just a pretty bad way to follow it up. And it's really a good thing that Homicide is gone. A lot of you guys know I've been really disappointed with him since he's come back, and he's finally done. So it's pretty much what it is. Next match, we got Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly taking on the Bravado brothers. This really was great, actually. This really overachieved. I was really impressed with this match. You know, the Bravados, man, they're really hitting their stride as heels. You know, at the 8th anniversary show last year, when I first saw these guys, I was like, oh man, this doesn't look good. I mean, these guys, they're just not over at all. They were getting booed. You know, they took on the Kings of Wrestling. I understand that for that show, but still, I just didn't think they had much of a future in Ring of Honor. But they really transformed themselves. They're playing these great preppy heels. They have a great personality too, both guys, and you know, their wrestling ability is really, really good. Actually, they're really, I mean, they just worked a really good match with Cole and O'Reilly. This was definitely their best match that I've seen yet. You know, just great back and forth action. You know, great double teams from Cole and O'Reilly. A really great athletic match. You know, some really high flying maneuvers. Kyle O'Reilly actually did his running drop kick into the steel guardrail, and he actually gave Lance Bravado a concussion. This was legit. So, yeah, that was pretty stiff. And, you know, just great action. You know, I really thought this match overachieved. You know, just looking at the card on paper, I kind of thought this wasn't going to get a lot of time, and I thought this was going to end up being one of the weakest matches on the show. However, though, it was definitely one of the brightest spots on the show. So that was great stuff. All right, next up, we have Steve Corino and the Prodigy Mike Bennett. Now, I would have scrapped this match from the show. We've seen it plenty of times. Every single time we get the same bland, you know, boring match. So pretty much just saying the same shit with that match. Really don't want to talk about it. However, though, we got Jimmy Jacobs. Steve Corino introduced Jimmy Jacobs as the guy that he's been that's been mentoring him. And you know, Jacobs came out, cut a great promo, talked about how, you know, last time he was in Chicago, he was in a bad state of mind. You know, the Briscoes and Tyler Black hung him from the rafters, and he was on painkillers, he was on drugs, and he really needed to clean his act up, and now he's gotten his shit together. So Jacobs, you know, cut a great promo because he talked about how, you know, in the past he would wrestle for the Age of the Fall, he would wrestle to impress Lacey, but he's never really wrestled to, you know, for himself. And now he wants to prove that he's a man of honor and wants to prove to himself that he's a great wrestler. So a really great promo from Jimmy Jacobs. I think Jacobs could have, you know, great feuds with a lot of the guys on the roster. Even a guy like Davey Richards, I think a Davey Richards feud could bring a lot of personality out of Davey Richards that we haven't seen before. And like even other guys on the roster, Jimmy Jacobs versus Kevin Steen, I think that could be a feud of the year, just because of the stuff that they could do on the mic. So that was great. A great promo from Jacobs. Great to see him back. So next up we had Chris Hero versus El Generico, and I'm going to say that this was really disappointing. Not because any of the things the guys did in the ring. You know, it was great action actually. We had a nice short and sweet match. You know, Hero was playing the aggressor. Generico was his, you know, usual great self. just pretty good action. However, though, we got awful booking here. I don't know what they were thinking. Man, Hero actually did a spinning Yakuza and actually got his foot on the ropes to actually win the match. So Todd Sinclair actually awarded a Hero the match. And then a couple minutes later, somebody, I don't know, I guess someone shouted out to him, Hero used the ropes, and then they restarted the match over again. Generico came back, did his big Yakuza, and then suplexed Hero to get the win. It was crappy. I mean, they basically gave us the HBK Randy Orton finish from Unforgiven 2003. As a lot of you guys know, that was an awesome match, but that finish definitely really killed that match for me. This is something that we see in mainstream wrestling from time to time. It's really one of those things that insults your intelligence, and it's just crappy. Hero losing the match clean, it wouldn't have hurt him at all. I think pro wrestling is at a point right now where as long as the match is good and as long as the chemistry's there and the guys work hard and if the match quality delivers, it doesn't really matter who wins the match. It really doesn't. I really don't think it would have either guy losing the match is going to hurt them. So hopefully this is something that Ring of Honor has never done in the past. One of the reasons why people turned to Ring of Honor was so we wouldn't see finishes like this, and it didn't go over well with the fans. So this was dumb. It was stupid. It was really bad booking, and there's no reason to see anything like this again in Ring of Honor. So I understand it because I'm going to spoil it because I really want to talk about this. Claudio actually lost his match, so I guess having Hero lose his match as well clean would have definitely hurt the Kings of Wrestling. But so I can understand it from a certain point of view, but let's just move on to the next match. We had Davey Richards versus Charlie Haas. All right, so a lot of people really hyped up about this match. My friend, he really wanted to go to the New Japan show that had Davey versus Haas on it, and that match was supposed to be taking place for the New Japan weekend. However, though, it didn't take place. And but when he told me about the match, I was like, is it really that great of a matchup? I'm not a huge Charlie Haas fan. I'm like, what's the big deal? But after watching this match, I could see it. They both have great intensity. They're both great on the mat. And so it was a nice combination. This is one of the best Charlie Haas matches I've seen. This is probably his best match ever. It really is. And they paid, I don't know, I guess they were kind of paying tribute to Angle and Benoit in this match. A lot of similarities from their Royal Rumble match here. With the German suplexes, the Angle Slam, the countering the German into an ankle lock. I mean, they really did a lot of great stuff. Some of the stuff that Angle and Benoit did, you could see a lot of similarities, like I said, and just really stiff. They were really slapping the taste out of each other's mouths. Pretty good mat wrestling. I thought Davey was great. Davey really busted his ass and brought the best out of Charlie Haas, and it was a great match. It wasn't amazing or anything like that. Some people might actually rate it lower than me, but I still thought it was a solid 4-star match, and definitely the third best match on the show. Next up, we had Claudio Castagnoli versus Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin's first, big singles match in Ring of Honor, and I have to say I was slightly disappointed. This felt more like a WWE style match. Claudio was really, going after Shelton's arm, and he was going after his knuckles, just trying to tweak and torque his, arm in ways to kind of make Shelton suffer. So Shelton was pretty much, playing a babyface the whole match. The crowd was trying to wake Shelton up. Claudio was, really, the fans were really getting under Claudio's skin. They were doing the hey, and the Claudio was like, shut up. So they were doing that stuff, and then Hero came out, then Haas came out. When Haas came out, he was really trying to. He was like, I don't know. I just think the guy tries way too hard sometimes. He was like, he was calling Shelton a son of a bitch. He was like, come on, Shelton, you son of a bitch, fire it off. So I don't know. I would have liked to see these guys just go straight up one-on-one without any without the both tag team partners coming out, but. We got a pretty awesome finish, though. Claudio was on the top rope, and then Shelton leaped up and did his, hip toss off the top of the rope. And, that was pretty much the finish. I thought the match could have went a little bit longer. I expect a little bit more athleticism. I expected this to be, considering both guys' athleticism, you would have expected a lot more. Claudio doing the UFO and Shelton doing some more athletic stuff out there, and we really didn't get that. I think Shelton needs to go back to using the T-bone suplex. A lot of his matches, I just feel like he's missing something. I thought he used to hit that T-bone beautifully, like back in 2004, 2005, when he was the Intercontinental Champion. But Yeah, it was still a very, very solid match. Just another really good, solid 3.5 star match. Uh, I just think that both these guys could do a lot more if they ever get a chance to wrestle one on one again. So next up we have Christopher Daniels versus Colt Cabana. This was fun. This was a non-title match, I guess, because when the match was signed, Ring of Honor still didn't have a television deal. So, Cabana and Daniels, it was really, really fun. Colt didn't really overdo it with the comedy, which definitely worked in this match. I really feel like Christopher Daniels was really hitting his stride as a heel, so it kind of sucks as they're not going to bring him back. And if Daniels was staying, I would say that really wouldn't have needed Truth Martini to stick around the House of Truth. I think Daniels is so good as a heel, and he's so good on the mic that I think just having Truth Martini is a waste of time. I think Daniels, Roderick Strong, Michael Elgin. I think you could just, form the new prophecy with those three. I think that would have been fine. But like I said, don't expect anything great from Daniels and Cabana. This is another match that kind of disappointed me, but it was still fun though. It was very short, but it was short, sweet, and pretty entertaining. So let's move on to the Chicago Street Fight. We had the All Night Express taking on the Briscoes. This was great. This has been a great feud. We got that blood war. Honor takes center stage with Jay Briscoe and Red Titus just punching the shit out of each other and blood flying all over the place. And we got a great street fight. This was great. We got the Briscoes were playing great heels. The Briscoes should have turned heel 2 years ago. As the match was taking place, I was like, yeah, Jay Briscoe is such an awesome heel. I mean, they really should have done this 2 years ago. I mean, all that wasted time when the Briscoes were stale. I mean, it's just a shame that it came so late. But this was great. Kenny King and Red Titus definitely probably the tag team of the year. They've really stepped up, and every single match, they just keep growing and growing and growing. And, they used a lot of weapons. They used the chain. Jay Briscoe was choking Kenny King out with a steel chain. They used the fire extinguisher when Kenny King made his comeback. Stiff chair shots. Red Titus actually going for the sex factor. He got pushed up the top rope, went through a table. Kenny King did a lot of, really athletic moves out there with, blended in with some nice hardcore spots. Trying to think what else. They brought out a ladder. I think Kenny King hit his finishing neck breaker off the top of the ladder to Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe, we got the old Mark Briscoe in this match. He did a lot of, crazy stuff off the top rope and off the ladder. And, Jay Briscoe, like I said, Jay Briscoe played an awesome heel. So yeah, just a great street fight. I thought this was pretty much just as good as it could have been. Probably not as insane as the Briscoes, El Generico, Kevin Steen street fight from Boston from 2007. But that match is very, very unsafe. That's the type of match where that's really going to shorten careers if you have that kind of match. So they didn't take a lot of vicious punishment to the face as they did in that match, but still great great high spots, great hardcore action. I mean, it was really, really good, and you could definitely tell the feud's definitely not over. I think Briscoes, Kenny King, and Red Titus. I think the door is definitely open for a ladder war. If the Briscoes win the belts, in the near future, I think we could definitely see like a ladder war, maybe at like a Glory of Honor or something like that. So we'll see what happens. Next up, we had Eddie Edwards versus Roderick Strong. This is the rematch from Manhattan Mayhem 4. Which, in my opinion, I still think that was the match of the year. I thought that match was great. Now, a lot of people, particularly a lot of the smart marks that are kind of down on Ring of Honor, really didn't like the match because that match kind of took a while to get going. And I don't know, I'm not really sure what the reason was, but just a lot of people just don't like Roderick Strong. I'm just going to come to that conclusion. Just a lot of people just don't like watching his matches for whatever reason. He just doesn't have a lot of fans out there. But this was still great though. This really, pretty much just as good as the Manhattan Mayhem 4 match. Obviously, with Eddie winning the belt on that show, the moment was definitely better. So that's gonna be a lot more memorable. But this is a great rematch. Roderick wanted his belt back, so he took it to Eddie Edwards. He took it right to him. Really, really aggressive. Edwards took a lot of punishment. He took a couple of Tiger drivers. On the outside, he took a Tiger driver on the edge of the ring apron. He, Roderick, super kicked him, multiple times in a row. So Edwards took a beating out there, but he never fought it off. And, he countered some of Roderick's offense beautifully in this match. Like Roderick was going for like a backbreaker off the top rope, but Eddie countered it into a hurricanrana. That was great. And, this really, really good, probably not as methodical as Hero versus Edwards. This is a little bit more action packed. The finish came off a lot better here. For whatever reason, the finish of Hero versus Edwards just didn't come off well Here they really fixed that problem, and it just came off a lot better. It really made Edwards look like a badass. So just a great match. Once again, the rematch definitely delivered, and overall, the show was still great. I had some minor complaints with some of the undercard stuff and some of the stuff in the middle of the card, but yes, still definitely check out the show.